But let's start it off here because this was a difficult one to rank the 3 and second best third baseman of all time. Now, admittedly, I didn't see Dick Allen play. I know a little bit about his career, but probably not as much as I should. He should be in the Hall of Fame. I agree with that push. But I didn't know defensively how much he bumped around. So Dick Allen played the majority of his games in his career at third base here with the Phillies, bumped around a little bit to left field during his time here, ultimately ended his career playing first base. So we did classify him as a third baseman. And hot take, he's going to be number 3 on our list. 2 different stints with the Phillies. The 75-76 stint, he finished at first base after his time in Chicago, but was here 63 to 69. One of the great all-time players. Hall of Fame snub, no doubt about it. Third base is probably historically the Phillies' best depth chart position here. Nearly a 60 career WAR guy, 350 home runs, a career 292 hitter, over 1,000 runs scored, over 1,100 RBIs. Decent on base for his career at 378, and his OPS plus, Tyler, was 156 for his career. So Dick Allen, not a great defensive player. And before we get to our number 2 guy, I think that ultimately is what decided it was the defense, because the guy ahead of him was excellent. Dick Allen, not a great fielder, tremendous offensive player. He's going to be number 3, but it was a tough debate there when we did the side-by-side player comparisons.
Yeah, Dick Allen, a minus D WAR in every single season that he played across his 16 or 15-year major league career. But on the flip side, his O WAR was above 5 in 7 consecutive seasons from 6 consecutive seasons from 64 to 70. And then when he left the Phillies, posted an 8-9 in 1972 with the Chicago White Sox. This guy has been absolutely snubbed from the Hall of Fame. I hope that the Veterans Committee gets this right one day and puts him in the Hall of Fame where he belongs, because his offensive numbers are just absolutely off the charts good. You talked about that 156 OPS plus throughout his career. I believe 3 different times led the league in slugging, 3 different times led the league, 4 different times led the league in OPS, was the 64 Rookie of the Year with the Phillies, won an MVP. Of course, he won it with Chicago, but just to talk about how good his career was, he was a butcher in the field, and he was a minus 7 defensive WAR in his time with the Phillies alone. The guy above him, I think, was a 7 in his time with the Phillies, and probably somehow got even better when he went to St. Louis and continued to win Gold Gloves. So it was really just matching offense versus defense, and Rolen's offense was good enough to be at number 2. Surprise, surprise, we kind of have a pretty locked top 3. But you're right, Jamie. This group is it should be 3 for 3 on Hall of Famers, which is just incredible at one position to talk about that list.
Yeah, it should be. And the guy that's in second just recently got in, Scott Rolen versus Dick Allen. We did the side-by-side baseball reference, player comp, very similar amount of time played in Philadelphia, but Scott Rolen's defense, I think was the deciding factor in this. An 8-time Gold Glove winner, 7-time All-Star in his career. He's a Hall of Famer. He won the Rookie of the Year here in Philadelphia. He played in the 2006 World Series. He has a Silver Slugger. His offensive numbers are pretty damn comparable, I got to say. His OPS plus for his career was 122. So his OPS and slugging, not as good as Dick Allen, but production-wise, almost a little better. He had more home runs, slightly less batting average, more runs scored, more RBIs, very similar stolen bases. Scott Rolen had a career 70 WAR, which is pretty damn good. Really, really tough decision, but I think this one came down to defense, and I feel pretty confident putting Scott Rolen in as the second best Phillies third baseman of all time.
Yeah, I think that, if you want to flip these 2 and say Dick Allen's 2 and Scott Rolen's 3, I'm not going to fight you on it. But I think that the defense was elite, and yes, Hall of Fame is subjective because writers are human, and I think writers carry vendettas sometimes.
Sure.
And, whatever the reason for Dick Allen not being in the Hall of Fame, there's definitely a vendetta there by the writers, I think, still to this day, which is crazy. But, you have three guys that are either borderline Hall of Famers, should be in, or are in. And if you want to flip 2 and 3, I'm not going to argue it. Scott Rolen's numbers are really, really good. And think about it too. Like, these are both guys that had to suffer through. Well, let me rephrase that. It's one guy that had to suffer through the vet turf for the bulk of his, his time in Philly. Actually, for the entire time in his time in Philly, because he left in 2002. But both win a Rookie of the Year, multiple Gold Gloves for Scott Rolen, multiple Silver Sluggers for Dick Allen. You're balancing offense and defense, and you can't go wrong with either of these two guys.
Yeah, you really can't. Yes, Ray, unfortunately, Pedro Feliz, we did debate. He didn't make the cut. I pushed hard for Charlie Hayes in the 3 spot.
Yeah, I know you were really big on Wes Helms making the team.
Oh yeah, Wes. Definitely Placido Polanco. Probably snubbed a little bit, and Chris Lemmer says,
Michael Young.
Yeah, don't forget Michael Young. Yeah, and Chris Lemmer says Rick Shue. We skipped right over him. We've lost all credibility.
Not
Michael Franco.
Not to dive too far, into the deep end, but when they signed Michael Young, I thought it was a really good move.
So did I. And he was fine here.
Yeah, they weren't quite good at that point anymore. They were trailing downward, and it was getting to the point where they were starting to move guys, and the core was starting to get older. And but at that time, I thought it was a good. It was like one of those. Okay, they're still trying to be a competitive ball club type of thing.
Yeah. So that leads us obviously to the number 1 third baseman all time in Phillies history. Yeah, I don't think there's much debate about this one. He's the man that made me love baseball, hitting bombs, hitting piss missiles out of the vet. Michael Jack Schmidt. You and Orioles fans can go debate the greatest third baseman the game's ever seen. I'll just tell you right now, it's Mike Schmidt. One of the, I believe there's 19 or 20 career 100+ WAR players in Major League Baseball, and Michael Jack Schmidt is one of them. A career WAR of 106.8. Absolutely filthy. A 3-time MVP, a World Series winner, a 6-time Silver Slugger winner, a World Series MVP. Oh, yeah, 10 Gold Gloves on top of it, 12-time All-Star, Hall of Famer, 500 home run club, 1,500+ runs scored, almost 1,600 RBIs, a career 380 on base guy, 520 slugging, OPS plus of 148. Michael Jack Schmidt, all-timer.
So 2 things really quickly. I want to give you a trivia question, and then I'll dive into the numbers real quick. So as you said, there's 21 players with a career WAR of 100 or better.
21, okay.
18 of those players are in the Hall of Fame. 3 are not. Who are the 3 that are not?
Alex Rodriguez.
Alex Rodriguez is correct.
Manny Ramirez?
Manny Ramirez is not 100. No.
Okay.
Good guess. You're in the right. You're in the right era.
Steroids.
Yeah.
Barry Bonds.
Barry Bonds is number 1 all time in WAR.
And Pete Rose.
No, it's the other one's kind of a trick question because he's not eligible for it yet. It's Albert Pujols.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
But I will say this:
he'll get in.
Looking back at Mike Schmidt's numbers, do you know what jumped out to me? Because we know the lore in the era. We know the Gold Gloves. We know the 548 home runs. We know the RBIs. We know the MVPs. Do you know what jumped out to me? Mike Schmidt was sneaky quick for a while.
Stolen bases a couple years.
23 in 74, 29 in 75. And then, he went and kind of into the teens, 14, 15, 19. He had a couple years of like 12 and 14. But there were a couple of years at the beginning of his career, he was sneaky quick.
Yeah, how about that? It didn't jump out to me, but now that you say it, yeah, what power hitter is leading the league in home runs and also stealing 29 bags in a year?